Hey there, guys. So, a lot of stuff has been going on in the Destiny community. You've been seeing a lot of videos going up with concerns about the game. And today we're going to dive into the community's concerns about the game. We'll be addressing some key issues such as the apathy, the instability, the repetitiveness, microtransactions, lack of PvP content, and the absence of interesting loot. So, these are all just my opinions, and I'm going to have some PvP footage here because I was actually having a decent time with the seasonal auto rifle, and PvP is pretty fun. But first off, as well, I want to say that the devs and employees, not all of them, but I'm sure there's some that are still passionate about the game, but they're just held back by the managers at Bungie and how they perceive this game or what they envision it being, where it's turned from a passion project more into just a business generating revenue. And we definitely had signs of this, but I'm sure, like me, a lot of you guys have ignored some of them, and it's just coming to bite us now. And I think finally people are getting to their breaking point. And I mean, I feel bad for the devs that want to make something cool. So if you're, we have like a really good idea, something amazing that you can develop and you have the skills for, but then your manager's like, no, you can't do that because your manager doesn't want to over deliver. I feel like that's really unfortunate, especially I feel like for a lot of game developers, like they play the games that they make and they want to see some really cool stuff in the game, but it's just not happening. So the managers don't have a reason to need to do better because Bungie is a successful business and they continue to do well, continue to make a lot of profit. So the managers, I'm sure, that's a focus for them, and they're not really apathetic towards, or shouldn't say apathetic, they're not really relating to the actual devs that are working on the game. The only way for them to change is if you, me, all the players are apathetic towards the game, stop playing it or play it very minimally. And the last time that we had this happen was when Bungie was 5 weeks away from shutting down because Curse of Osiris was so bad. And then they gave us Forsaken, which that whole year of content was really good. I do understand that it is a lot to make, especially with like the raids that we were getting. Not that they were always like really big raids. Like I really miss Crown of Sorrow. That was one of my favorite raids. I really wish I would have gotten the day one raid emblem, but back then I just wasn't as good at the game as I am now, where I've been able to get day one raid emblems. But like some of that stuff is just really cool. And I remember at the time too, I really liked a lot of the armor. And even the Gambit season, I mean, it still gave us really cool loot, so I didn't really have too many problems with that. Um, but Bungie doesn't really have pressure to perform from the customers, which would be us. So when this whole thing happened and they were in a difficult spot, they needed to build trust with the community. So doing Forsaken, doing all that kind of stuff, making good content. And then they wanted to be able to keep people around. So, I mean, if you make good content, people will stick around. And then now we've kind of been in the revenue stage that they talked about for a long time now. And this is all in that developer conference, I guess I want to say, that Justin Truman presented in on games as a service. And it really, I don't know why, like that should have just been like a slap in the face. This is how they view the game. This is what it's going to be like. And I think just because we have money invested in the game, we kind of ignored that when it should have just been a big wake up call that this is probably not going to be good going into the future. But when we are apathetic towards the game, it'll get better just because Bungie wants to have that trust and retention so that they can, of course, make money. And Bungie right now, I don't think really cares if you talk about the game in a good or bad context. And even in the presentation that Justin gave, he flat out said that just apathy is what's going to kill the game, not if people are passionate about it in a good or in a bad way. So definitely a red flag there, and there's been other ones as well. But again, it's because of that sunk cost. We're invested in the game. We put how much time into it. Like you can look at, I'm sure, majority of the player base that's been around for a while, and they got thousands of hours in there, and you have that time in the game, and you don't want to feel like that was wasted. Um, but I mean, like sunsetting weapons, I know some of them were a little bit too strong, so I can see that. But when they started doing that and taking away those weapons and then removing the content, which was really unfortunate, because I remember when new players would come into the game and they could get some of the raids that weren't as expensive, and then we'd go in and do those raids with them, and that was a lot of fun. Had some really good memories doing that. But I feel really bad as well for the creators that their livelihood is staked in making Destiny 2 content, streaming Destiny 2 content, because they're in a really tough spot right now. This is how they make money, and I'm sure a lot of them really enjoy that lifestyle and don't want to go back to having to find some other job, or are going to have a difficult time transitioning to some other form of content. But this is a point that I really want to talk about. I just wanted to kind of go over things as a whole. But Bungie has made the microtransactions worse since splitting from Activision, in my opinion. And some of the best content we had was with Activision. Now, I'm sure it's not all positive, especially for the workers having to do a lot of hours and be stressed out. But like the same time, like if there's at least, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but like in my head, I know that they don't want to launch day one raids during the weekend because they don't want people there. But I feel like it would be better to take off a day during the week, work that one weekend day just to make sure that the day one raid launch is solid, and then people can go on the weekends and have the time that they need to be able to participate in that transaction. So they have been trying to get their feet on the ground since Shadowkeep, and this is kind of why they were pushing for more monetization, and they had talked about this. There's a lot of things that they have said that we really should be holding them accountable to, but and then the thing that I think I really dislike the most is whenever a new season launches, I just go like right to the Ever store just to see what stuff is in there and just to see what stuff I'm gonna be able to buy, and then I'll go to like Today in Destiny. When is this gonna be available for Bright Dust? And I mean, I have 80k Bright Dust. I'm not running out anytime soon. I seem to stay around the same season after season because I mean, there's some stuff I don't like, there's some stuff I do like, and I always buy all the stuff that I like. So I'm not buying anything unless I get silver only, which those items I normally don't buy because the next season it'll be up for Bright Dust anyways. Other than a few select items. But anyways, that's just something that really irks me is that all the cool stuff is in the store, and like you go and you talk to somebody else, like where did they get that? And you can go look into the store and it's right there. It's never as much, like it's not so much the activities that they're doing. It's basically the cool stuff that people have and are using is in the store. And I guarantee you that if you look at somebody's fashion, a decent amount of that is stuff that is in the store, and it is not mainly the cosmetics that they have earned in the game, which is very unfortunate. Now there's like cool stuff in cosmetics in like trials, getting the ships, the sparrows. I really like all those. Those are really cool. But now like I've become apathetic and not really going after those rewards because I just don't really care to play trials or PvP anymore. PvP overall, like I can have a decent time in there with some friends, but PvP is just, it's so rough. Like the connections, the lobby balancing, having to play skill based, like it just is not fun. It's just not very stable. And even like it's just like the biggest thing is when you're shooting somebody and they're just not taking damage because of the connection. Like, what is up with that? This Some of the stuff is just so wild. So I can play a little bit of it, but then I just got to step away because it just becomes way too frustrating and it's just not worth my time to deal with all that. And then on top of that, playing a lot of the same maps really sucks. Really hate doing that. And especially when you play a map like, um, I want to say like Disjunction, like any of those maps. I think the other one's Cathedral, where those maps are just not good PvP maps, and they took away a lot of really good ones that I remember playing, like Firebase and all those. Those were some really good maps, and I wish that they would have just left all those in, or at least start bringing them back every season. And I'm sorry if you're playing this game for PvP, it's probably not going to look very good. You should really go find another game, or I'm sure maybe Marathon, if you want to give Bungie more of your money, will satisfy you. But yeah, just unfortunate. So another thing I want to touch on too is like this kind of ties into the store is the yearly events are pretty trash. I don't really go and farm out the guns for any of the events. If there's some cool armor, I'll go buy it for Bright Dust, and that's all I really do for the event. Doesn't matter what event it is. I just don't participate in them at all because they're really boring, especially having the whole event card and all that stuff now. That's just ridiculous. But now can go and touch on the seasonal model. So feel like really how they've structured it, where they time gate you. Even like, so you have the story that's time gated. You have the weekly challenges that you want to complete them to be able to get Bright Dust and the upgrades for focusing or whatever it may be for the season. It's really made the game feel like a job that you have to go to every week instead of just I can play, some here, take a break, come back, and then maybe, finish a story or finish getting whatever stuff. And I'm sure there's people that want to do it all at once. Good for you. Go for it. But it really makes it feel like a job. And another thing, I feel like the seasons are just still going to be so repetitive, even with the changes that Bungie has said that they're going to make. I think it's just going to be feeling really repetitive. And then on top of that, a lot of the seasonal events, like I don't really play them at all. I'll just play other things that I want to do. When you get the engrams, I'll just keep buying the gun until I can get the borders. And then every week, like you get a red border. So I don't even think I played like maybe 5 salvage activities this whole season. I just never touch any of those activities because they're just so boring. Every season I never touch those activities unless I absolutely have to for something. I just stay away from them. And then this goes into like the guns as well that we're getting season over season. They're kind of meh. They're not really anything that special. Like we might have one here or there, but for the most part, you already have weapons that can do the same job. And the benefits, I should say, of getting them. Like I like Cool Guy's videos. He makes some really good videos, but like the benefits are very minuscule, and to me, not really worth the time investment. But on top of that, like the dungeons and the raids though are some of the content that I really love. They have been seeming like it's more a lot of running lately, but like whenever they do put out those activities, they normally have good armor, good guns, cool looking stuff. The activities are cool, and the mechanics are pretty solid and pretty fun. So I feel like if anything, next year what I'll do is I might just buy like the dungeons if I still play. Right now, I'm just not feeling it. I'm kind of excited to just do the bare minimum to collect the things that I have purchased and then just be done with the game altogether and go on and play some other things that which I have been doing. And I recommend that you guys go out there, play some other games. Like been playing them like Miles Morales, the Spider-Man game. Been playing like the new Dead Space game, playing all these other games. They're not going to fix that loot addiction, I guess, that you have. But I have been considering getting Diablo 4 because it looks pretty solid. And I played Diablo 3, which I think people didn't like as much. And I enjoyed it, and like the Power Fantasy. So I might go do that just for that little bit of an itch. But yeah, it's unfortunate to see what has been happening in this game. And then the instability problems are ridiculous. It's so crazy how bad the servers are and how many problems they've been having. It's wild. Um, but I don't know. I don't think that's ever going to change. I feel like just the game is not getting the attention that it needs, content wise, with stability, with rewards. Like it's kind of feels like it's just barely held together. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. It was a little bit ranty. Hopefully not too bad. Just kind of wanted to give my thoughts on it. But it's unfortunate, and I guess we'll see what happens. I'm sure people after the next season comes out will be all fine and dandy. Maybe not. Maybe people are kind of hitting the breaking point. But we'll see what happens. And if you guys can give this video a like, really helps it do better. And been trying some different stuff here, trying to do some editing and audio on the Mac and using some of the Mac software, which I've been really liking. And hopefully this video is a little bit better quality or has a different quality to it. But I'll see you guys in the next video.